It is Real Housewives of Beverly Hills Season 11 Reunion Part 2 Recap and React. For those of you who are new, I am Nick Zangl, and let us jump right in actually to the recap as you react in the live chat, which I will read throughout this episode after sharing my thoughts throughout as well. And let's just jump right in. So we get right into it with Erika being questioned by Andy Cohen himself, where he starts grilling her, and Erika shares how Tom was unfaithful to her for years, but she was faithful until filing for divorce. We also learned that she knew of two mistresses before filing for divorce and learned of a third one the day she left when his phone showed a breast picture from her, to which Erika replied, "Nice tits, you effing bitch," where it was a run-on sentence because she couldn't figure out how the spacebar worked on the flip phone she was trying to text back with. Then we get to watching Erika watch herself back on the show through the clip montage where, upon asking how she felt looking at that and watching it back, and she said she feels okay. Okay. And Erika then shares the reason her marriage looked more rosy in prior years compared to this one was because she only highlighted the good parts of her marriage and the good parts of Tom. Now, Erika also then shares she was not in control of her finances and gave every paycheck to her husband and stayed for the access to the money, not the money itself. And when asked why she didn't leave him earlier, she said she wouldn't have had access to the no access thing. Also, Andy asks her, well, if you had left years earlier, wouldn't you have gotten half of whatever he had at the time before all this came out? And Erika then said yes, but along with that now is she is entitled or responsible for half of the liability of the debt, which she says she did not know about because the finances were tied up in the law firm, which she did not have a lot of access to. Now, Erika then also says her ears really perked up when she started getting named in these lawsuits in the recent years, which we actually saw come up a few seasons ago at the reunion, which Erika pointed out was Denise's first, which I don't know why that's important, but that was just a reference. And she kind of quickly shut that down at that reunion. But of course, we know now where there is smoke, there is fire, and we're seeing the fire kind of come out right now. So leave your thoughts in that as we keep going on that in the chat as we keep going. So then Kyle shares how she did not tell Erika about the rumor she heard about their marriage because she didn't have any hard proof and it was hearsay, and she hears a lot of things about everybody and she doesn't know what's true and what's not. Erika then shares why she posted on Instagram about the mistress at the time that it was happening, and she said it was because she was mad about not only her husband cheating on her, but the talks of the divorce being a sham. And this was her attempt to signal to people that there's actually real stuff going on and it's not all that you would see. And this was kind of giving some insight into what's really going on. Erika then says that she did legally tie up loose ends in her life to be able to leave and to be able to pay for her new independent lifestyle, her house, and all the other things we see. But that was all she was able to say at that time legally. I'll get to my thoughts on that in a second. But then we get talks of Tom's dementia, where the girls are all sharing how their last interaction with him now makes more sense with the dementia claims because, and them consulting people in their lives and their own lives of people who had dementia, because he wasn't telling current stories. And other things now to the girls in hindsight look differently and look kind of off mentally. Erika then answers the questions of her leaving him when he needed her the most health-wise with I was the one helping him through all these accidents that we were being told were happening, and she was the one that protected him during that time, where she says she was blown off by a lot of doctors and people around him saying that they didn't want to get involved because they didn't want Tom suing them. And in response to would you marry Tom again, Erika says she doesn't even know who the person that she married was actually the person she married, because more and more keeps coming out that was happening allegedly during their marriage before she was even, from what she says, questioning things going wrong. And she says it is not looking good for him. She confirms that it's not appearing very good and hopes he didn't actually do what is alleged because that is not the man she married, and says she knows she is not that person that she's being painted to be. But we will see what happens with Tom. Now I'm going to get to my thoughts right here. So hang tight, and then I'll get to your chats in a few seconds. So it sounds like her biggest mistake was clearly trusting Tom at such a young age, and clearly she sees now how naive she was because of the power imbalance. And she has a point to saying that you aren't rich if you don't have access to your riches. I think that does make sense. But I am confused by her not being able to access her money, but being able to leave and close things up. Now, maybe she used the wrong adjective and should have said, I was able to open up additional accounts that were just me on them so I could leave and have a place to access my own money that I'm going to earn once I leave. But so maybe it was just her using the term closing instead of kind of opening new accounts, which is her kind of closing that chapter, if you will. I don't know, but that part was a little weird to me. And it does look bad on her to have left while he was deteriorating. But I think if that means he can get off easier or use that as the reason, maybe it was worth it for her at that point where she was weighing all the options. Now, it does look like we got confirmation of something I shared earlier in the season as things were unfolding, and I was still giving her more of a benefit of the doubt of maybe things just are kind of, she's trying to handle it and trying to deal with it, and maybe she's kind of figuring out how to say things. But I referenced how Tom changing, meaning mentally, or her learning these new things about his practice not being as legal or as clean as she thought it was, being the justification for her divorce, in that she thought he was a man of integrity and he was a man who was a voice for all these victims when she married him. And then she learned the man she was married to wasn't so, and that was enough for him to break the vows and meaning dissolve the marriage. Now, this would also indicate she knew of troubles before filing for divorce, which I don't think should work against her. The problem is Erika is trying to say at the same time that she wasn't aware of any of the illegal activity at the firm. So which is it? Because I think Erika would win over a lot of people by saying, I left because I saw things that were not driving with what I knew prior about this man, and I wanted no part of it. With that said, I did not divorce to hide assets, and that I think that the truth does add up and would make a lot of the talk and about sham divorce stop with her, because it makes sense. You left because of all these things going on that you didn't think he was going whatever do, but you're also not trying to hide assets, and you don't expect anything from the marriage because you don't want dirty money basically from the divorce. I think that makes sense. Now also, I've been seeing people comment around the webs and other YouTube channels that react and recap of people commenting how Erika's answers seem a little rehearsed because she is very quick to answer, and as if she knew what questions Andy was going to ask her ahead of time, to kind of give her maybe some time to prep with her lawyer and really be kind of very polished with her answers. Now, I'm not sure if that is the entire truth. I do think she prepped with her lawyer, because any smart person in this situation probably would, even though they probably told her just to not show up at all probably. And it does appear though that she is quickly answering, but I don't think it has to, I think it has to do with them editing down a 12-hour shoot day to 4 watchable hours of TV, where the storyline was centered mostly around Erika, which is really less than 3 hours of watchable time if you remove commercials. And so it also explains why they made it 4 parts, because I think if they had only made it 3 or 2 parts, then I think we'd be a little more suspicious of what's going on. So the fact that they made it 4 parts indicates to me that there was a lot more footage than maybe they thought they were going to have, meaning that they were surprised about what Erika shared and they wanted to put more in. That's what I'm thinking. Now, last thing before I get to your chats is, it also looks like Erika took the "do you want to get sued" line that she said to Sutton from Tom, because she's now admitting that people are afraid of him and afraid of him suing them, and they don't really want to be involved with him. But you can also clearly see that the girls feel for Erika going through this, even though they have a lot of questions and they see things not adding up and they're questioning things. But Erika also appearing to treat anyone questioning anything as a threat or a potential enemy, because she is/was in survival mode and felt backed into a corner, also is kind of understandable at this point. And I get how Erika could have felt trapped in the marriage too, but it doesn't jive with the story we were led to believe of Erika being this willing, smart, strong woman And these new details support a narrative of needing a powerful man to get ahead in life, which I don't know if she's fully thought about that and how that could affect her brand as Erika Jayne and whatnot. So, anyways, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to get to your chats. If you have anything to say, let me see what everyone is thinking or typing. And I know some people might be still typing, so I will continue on with the recap, and I will get to your chats in a few seconds as they come in. So let's keep going. So on a lighter note, Crystal says her housekeeper Lucy wasn't consulted on her reunion outfit because she probably would not have liked it. Andy Cohen then shared a viewer comment on the price of Dorit's wedding dresses, prompting Dorit to remind us the $30,000 dress was the crown jewel and most dresses are below $10,000 in price. Andy then swallows a yawn as Dorit is explaining her long-windedness, which I thought was funny. And Andy calls out Kyle for being the one that interrupts and how that could be just as bad as Dorit's long-windedness. Now, Crystal then fails to pick a side when asked about the Dorit versus Kyle situation. Dorit is then called out for putting her foot in her mouth in La Quinta in response to Garcelle asking about her house staff, and to which Kathy shares her love for Garcelle, bringing up the race conversation and how everyone was able to learn more from that. Dorit then makes it clear she hasn't had a nose job yet in her life, although she did go to Kyle's nose doctor consultation, and wouldn't have a problem admitting to a nose job if she had one. Then we go to Lisa Rinna, who shares how fun it was to do a soap opera project with Eileen Davidson, again for Peacock. Lisa then shares Amelia made the decision to split from Scott Disick, to which Lisa is happy about. Lisa is then also hoping for Harry Styles still to date Amelia, and we actually learn that Harry Styles watches The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, which is very interesting. As the other ladies said, they were happy with the breakup as well, where Crystal shares that her parents actually are 20 years apart as well, where Kyle then says she hasn't heard from the Kardashians yet about her comments on Scott. And we learn Lisa's mom, Lois, turned 93, where we saw a fun TikTok/Instagram video of Lisa, Lois, and Amelia dancing, where then Andy shares the love by viewers for Harry Hamlin, where Lisa gives Andy a jar of sauce from Harry, who is in Canada shooting his movie, where the girls joke about ensuring Andy sends a thank you text to Harry to avoid any trouble, referencing the Lisa versus Garcelle issues from this season. Now, Crystal then spoke up for the first time, I think, this episode, which was nice, but I think she's kind of making it hard for us to want her back next season based on these first two parts, because you can tell they are struggling to kind of fit her in wherever she speaks up at this point, but maybe the next few parts she will be more involved in conversation. Also, I do think Dorit clarifying her comments about her staff and the whole race conversation was cleared up here, and we've discussed that whole thing at length during the season, and you can go back to different parts on that to get my thoughts on that, yours. And nothing really new came up on that front versus the first part. But I also thought it was very interesting that Harry Styles is a known watcher of this show and may indicate him and Amelia have a good chance of maybe interacting somehow and maybe dating. I don't know. This Hollywood world, there's a lot of setups and things that happen behind the scenes with kind of someone's people calling someone else's people and seeing if there's a relationship of convenience there. That's all I'll call it. So we'll see if that plays out, because I don't think they would be talking about it if there wasn't something to it. That's all I'm saying. But I am also still holding on to my prediction that Harry Hamlin will be starting a tomato sauce company, brand, whatever, and promoting it on the show and the likes. I'll keep my word on that until it's been debunked. But I also liked how Andy called out Kyle on her kind of interrupting people and other people who have called her out on that, because she kind of slid under the radar this season, kind of deflecting her thoughts on Erika and whatnot on Sutton and letting her kind of speak for everyone. So I thought that was good on Andy to kind of give her a fair, I don't want to say beating. That's kind of not the term I want. A fair, I don't know, whatever the word is that you think of. But let's see if it's anyone in the chat. Okay, if you're not, you can leave your comments in the chat and I will read them after going through this next part, which is the last scene really focused on Kathy and Kyle's relationship again, over their repaired relationship after years of turmoil, starting from season 1 of this show, almost 11 years ago at this point, where their sister Kim's sobriety was exposed and the fallout from that on the show in the subsequent seasons, and of course in the tabloids and in the news. And then the American Woman show that Kyle produced, where Kathy says she was only able to watch the trailer for it. And Kathy then gets very emotional talking about their mom and how she doesn't even talk to her mom's friends or can even hear her mom's voice because she misses her so much. And the second part of this reunion ends with Kathy and Kyle shedding some tears as they warmly embrace to comfort each other. Now, I wanted to say about this last part, I like how they structured these reunion episodes by kind of bookending each part with the more serious topics and getting some light stuff in the middle, which is kind of the structure of the show anyway. But this storyline with Kathy and Kyle, I think, is one of the most real ones we've seen on the show. And it's a really tough one because this is a very relatable thing to many families having falling outs, and I'm sure you can think of examples in your life as I do on how this hits close to home. And to see this 10 plus year arc of a story, which only in part played out on the show because Kathy just joined the show now, appearing to end with some hope is nice to see, especially coming off the last almost 2 years we've had altogether, where we've all been tested seemingly nonstop for almost 2 years now. And so I think this is a very welcomed sight and storyline, if you will, for this season, and it's airing now. But before I check the chat one last time and read your comments as we discuss, I would like to kindly remind you before you leave to do whatever you do to support or show love for this episode. Oops, I just smacked my thing here. And also do whatever you have to do to make sure you do not miss another recap and react or any content from the channel or wherever you are tuning in from in the future. So with that said, I'm going to see if anyone is in the chat saying hi, and I will take a sip of water and mute myself for a second while you are typing. And I know some people joined late, so they're probably, it looks like they're here, but they're listening back. So if you have any comments and you get to this point in the video and you're able to comment on the main comment section, not in the live chat, make sure to leave any thoughts you have and we can talk back and forth there as well, because I see some people, I know I usually do these on Thursday, and this week and next week I'm doing them on Sunday. So you're probably watching the replay, but let me know any thoughts you have as we're wrapping up here. And until next time, make sure to click around the channel for more content, whether it's Real Housewives of Beverly Hills related in the shorts or the live news live chats I have every week and the segments and shorts that come out of that. So with that said, I'm going to actually wrap this one up here. It was a pretty short one because there was pretty focused heavily on Erika, and there was a quick recap with that. And with that said, I will talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.